Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I am your host this morning. I appreciate you joining with us this morning and spending your valuable time. We're going to have an interesting guest this morning. It is Jerry King. He is the founder of Voice of the Ozarks. It is a property rights group that is working to protect the rights of the people to use and access public lands and waterways. And he'll be joining us at about quarter after the hour. For this morning's bullet points, I wanted to talk in reference to the budget. As you're probably aware, the Republicans have submitted their version of the budget, which comes from the House. The Senate Democrats have submitted their budget, which of course comes from the Senate. And the President has negligently and deleteriously refused to submit his budget in a timely fashion, as required by law. Again, this president, since he has taken office, has not submitted a budget. The one budget that he has submitted, even the Democrats voted 100% against. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to posit the theory that there is a specific reason and purpose behind what's happening. One, the Senate Democrats are only now coming up with a budget because a new rule has been passed that says if you don't submit a budget, you don't get paid. Suddenly, for the first time in years, the Senate has produced a budget. I find that obscene. If I hire you to work, I shouldn't have to threaten you with whether or not you're going to receive your pay for doing the basic foundational functions that are required as part of your job. If you're hired to sweep floors or negotiate mergers and acquisitions, makes no difference. That job comes with a basic set of rules, duties, and obligations, and responsibilities. What we have seen in Congress for years upon years now is a Congress who needs to be threatened and cajoled with the loss of income in order to produce the most basic foundational responsibility of that job, the managing of our finances. That is obscene. To make matters worse, their new budget calls for $1 trillion in new taxes, and it will not balance the budget. This blueprint that they've provided increases or provides for an additional $100 billion in economic stimulus in the form of infrastructure spending and job training. Now, what that tells you is that this is more of shovel-ready projects that we saw in the last money pump. This is an absolute shame. It is an abomination. It is an abuse and a misuse. It is malfeasance in office. To understand that we are currently looking at $16.6 trillion in deficit, to add to that by an additional $1 trillion just in this year alone, and to utilize $100 billion of that for more giveaways and more bennies for their friends, cronies, and corrupted partners, I find that atrocious. How long, America, will we stand by and allow these alleged leaders to spend us into oblivion? What is immoral about this is the fact that our children will be left holding the bag. There is no way during our existing lifetimes that we can pay off 17 well, in this case, by the time he's out of there, maybe $24 trillion. There's just no way. I don't care how much austerity you put on our people. There is no way that you are going to see that kind of debt paid off in our lifetimes. Thomas Jefferson made it very clear that no debt should be incurred by a government that could not be paid off in a 20-year window. His actual window was 19. 19 years. That is the length of time that debt should exist. No more. The premise behind that being that would account for the period of time in which most lawmakers and most people who have reached the peak of their income can actually pay off that kind of debt. And it would be immoral, unethical, and quite frankly illegal to saddle our children with that kind of abuse. I would throw this out, that what we are currently looking at right now with a government that is $17 trillion in debt, unfunded mandates equating to well over another $120 trillion, and now a new budget from these traitors in Washington, that this amounts to nothing more than terrorism and child abuse. It is terrorism against the unborn. It is child abuse against those who are currently born today. This is inexcusable. It is unconscionable. It is unethical, immoral, illegal. And frankly, the people in Washington should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. Not because they have done something which is illegal, which it clearly is. There is nowhere in the Constitution that you can find the type of abuse that this government has currently saddled all of us with. But because of the fact that this type of spending is irreconcilable, there is no way that this amount of money can ever be paid back. And they have actually endangered us to the point where our debt has become an imminent threat to the Republic of the United States of America. It is an imminent threat. We are on the verge of bankruptcy as a nation. Where does that leave us? The goal of the progressive mindset for generations now has been the development of a dependency mentality and a dumbing down of America. 80% of the students who graduate New York City schools cannot read. 80%. They must take remedial classes just to get into community college. Our schools are failing. Our infrastructure is crumbling despite trillions of dollars spent upon it. We have just as many poor now as we had back in the 60s when the Great Society was intended to resolve that problem once and for all. We kill foreigners. We're freeing the hell out of them. Please. I mean, how dare we try to export what we have when what we are exporting is so broken it cannot stand on its own feet? That's my bullet points for this morning. We're going to be joined by Jerry King, the voice of the Ozarks, immediately after this break. I would encourage you to stick with us for this period because Jerry has a lot to offer us in terms of knowledge and education and information about our Ozark heritage regions, our local rivers, lakes, and recreational areas, and in addition to that, just general property use. We'll be right back.
The area's best selection of firearms and ammunition can only be found at West Plains Pawn and Jewelry. Top-of-the-line handguns from Kimber, Smith & Wesson, Ruger, Glock, Beretta, and many more. A wide selection of ammunition, including blanks, centerfire handgun and rifle, rimfire, a variety of shotgun shells, target, and turkey. With new arrivals every week, the area's best selection of firearms and ammunition can only be found at West Plains Pawn and Jewelry, 1713 West U.S. Highway 160, or shop online at westplainspawn.com.
When their 5-year-old pestered them to let them play the game, Zombies versus the Ninja, Greg and Sharon Kitchen's first instinct was to say, "No, I don't think so, sweetie." Danny said he was offered the chance to buy more ammunition and more ammunition and more ammunition. Danny's game-playing session has cost the family $2,500.
Saturdays noon to 3 for the Kim Commando Show, and weekdays at 7:20 for your digital minute. That's Kim Commando on the Ozarks Best News Talk.
All right, folks, we are back. Again, you're listening to America's Voice Now. Our guest this morning is Jerry King. Jerry is with a group called Voice of the Ozarks, and their mantra is working to protect the rights of the people to use and access public lands and waterways. And so, good morning, Jerry. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Mike.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share your program with us and kind of give us an understanding and an overview of what you folks do. Maybe you don't mind by starting out with a little bit about the organization and how you guys came into being and so forth and so on.
Well, the organization's been in existence for about 6 years. We came into being in 2007. We're a group of conservatives. We believe in the Constitution of the United States. We believe in God, freedom, capitalism, the entrepreneurial spirit that built this country. We believe that the Bill of Rights was designed by the Founding Fathers because there was a fear of government.
Right.
And we think this is the greatest nation on earth, of course, but we want to protect it, not lose it. In 2007, we came together. We're a group of individuals from Dent, Shannon, Reynolds, Texas, Carter, Oregon, Ripley, and Howell County. We felt that the National Park Service, which had come into this immediate area in 1964, and their reason for coming into the area was the riverways, and they felt that the riverways were owned by private individuals and that the access to these riverways would be denied by private individuals as time went on, and
Sure.
they wanted to ensure that the public had access. Since that, they took these lands through eminent domain or made a purchase from an individual. If the individual was willing to sell, if they weren't, they used eminent domain to get it. From that time on, they have slowly but surely just taken access away from people. They close roads, they close access points, they deny you the right to utilize the facilities in the way that people have been using them here for hundreds of years.
Sure.
We don't support any one particular group. We think hunting, fishing, boating, canoeing, horseback riding, four-wheeling, hiking, all of those things should be allowed. And the Park Service thinks that they should slowly be curtailed. They've in the past 3 years, the Park Service has been working on their 20-year plan, quote unquote, and they haven't come out with it yet. Originally, they solicited comments from the people, and 5,000 comment cards were sent in by people from this immediate area, suggesting that no changes be made. Mm-hmm. So they didn't come out with their 20-year plan. They held off on it, and as of yet, we still don't know what that 20-year plan is.
So, were the comments that were submitted? Did you feel as if those comments were received and acted upon?
No, they were received, I'm sure, because we mailed them in on the type of cardboard paper that was necessary to get them through the post office to the Park Service.
Right.
The Park Service, shortly after that comment period closed, said, we've decided to do a workshop, and they conducted a workshop up in Salem and invited 30 or 40 individuals whom they selected. Mm-hmm. And they really weren't even satisfied with the results of that workshop. But the purpose of the comment cards and the workshop were to determine how their 20-year plan was going to be applied.
Right.
And
now, when you say the 20-year plan, we're talking about a 20-year plan on the properties which they have obtained through eminent domain or purchase, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So, and just for the record, so that people understand who are listening, what that entails, that is basically a buffer zone, if you will, around the rivers, correct?
That's correct.
The scenic riverway areas.
It's about a half a mile or so on either side of the river, the Jacks Fork and the current river I'm speaking of.
Right.
And I think they have buffer zones down on the 11.2, but that's another issue. Mm-hmm. A problem we have with the Park Service and the Department of Conservation is they're the largest landowners in Shannon County and hold significant amounts of land in the other counties, and they pay very little taxes. We're very poor. Tourism is very important to us. So when you deter any tourism, you hurt our general populace.
Sure.
But the bureaucrats seem to be oblivious to this. We've met several times in Van Buren with the Park Service, and not only myself, but the presiding commissioner from Carter County and several other individuals have expressed extreme concern about curtailment of activities because it will cause less revenue to come into the county and therefore less services to be provided to the people of the county because of less revenue, and they are already short.
Sure. Well, one area that I find concerning is the fact that there's no property taxes paid, and property taxes are what pay for our school systems. They are what pay for our local services and that type of thing. So when these properties are either sold and or taken over by eminent domain, it naturally creates a scenario where tax revenues, real estate property tax revenues, drop in a geographic specific area. And of course, we all know, at least those folks who are in the Ozarks and are familiar with the geographic area here, that already those rivers run through some of the poorest counties that exist in the nation, not just in the state of Missouri. And so when we're taking money away from our school systems, when we're taking money away from our abilities to operate within our local city and county and community governments, that presents a problem in and of itself.
That's correct. And another problem that we have, when I speak of the Park Service, it's actually the Ozark National Scenic Riverways is the name of the organization that is umbrellaed under the Park Service.
Right.
Here in our immediate area. But another problem that we have with them, when we formed this country 237 years ago, there were three separate branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial.
Right.
The Park Service.
Now we have this new one called the administrative.
The Park Service comes under the executive branch of government. Mm-hmm. However, Congress, for whatever reason, has allowed them to pass regulations which are semi-laws, I guess you might say.
Hey, you're singing to the choir here. I'm hoping you've seen my 4-day expose on administrative agencies and how extra-constitutional they truly are.
They're performing two functions of two branches of government, and we only
actually
have three.
They're actually operating as three branches of government, extra constitutionally. They carry the executive, the judicial, and the legislative all underneath an umbrella, which, and my argument has always been this: we never delegated authority to Congress to subdelegate that authority to unaccountable bureaucrats who don't answer to us as voters and individuals in a nation. And so their agenda is really one that is outside of our purview. We don't even have a right to argue. And, it's been my experience. I have a lot of history in the telecommunications industry. And just to use this as an example, the FCC proposes a new rulemaking. Well, they get a lot of public comment about it. Then they get a lot of comment from, privately, of course, from industry titans who have, their own lobbyists, if you will. And invariably, it almost always goes against the general welfare of the people who are the benefactors and, quite frankly, the owners of the radio waves, and is turned over to whatever private interest has, I guess, thrown enough money at the problem. The problem, of course, being our Congress. So, of course, here's where the rub comes. When you have administrative agencies, and by the way, 2/3 of all the legislation that is passed and is in the National Register, the Federal Register, 2/3 of all the legislation that is passed is not passed by Congress. And our Constitution very clearly and expressly and explicitly states that all regulation must come from Congress. It cannot come. Only Congress has the power to pass law. And yet administrative agencies pass law, which parades about as a rule or a regulation, but it is really actually law. And it's completely outside the purview of the Congress itself. So I understand exactly where you're coming from when you talk about, the fourth branch of government that no one knows about. It is the shadow government that no one is really fully aware of. And, all of these agencies, whether they are, whether they're the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, or whether they're the National Park Service, or whether they are the Federal Communications Commission, all of these agencies operate extra-constitutionally.
The bureaucracies, our view of the bureaucracies is that there's very little of importance to them in serving the people. The bureaucracies are only concerned with serving themselves.
Sure.
And let me elaborate on that. The budget needs to increase every year as far as the heads of these bureaucracies are concerned.
Sure.
And the growth of the bureaucracy is all that's important.
Right. It becomes a personal power issue.
That's correct. And the Park Service here, their budget was increased to $7 million just recently. Even though we're in very trying times economically in the United States, their attitude is one of, we're up here and the people are down there. I know of one particular incident, and it's been a few years back, but where a Park Service employee used a Park Service credit card for his personal use to the tune of several $100s, which would have been a felony in Missouri.
Right.
Now, what happened to that Park Service employee? Was he thrown in jail? No. Was he fired? No. Was he disciplined? Yes. Well,
did they make him pay it back?
That I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
However, he should have certainly been fired. I mean,
right.
You steal from your employer, you should be fired.
Sure.
And if you commit a felony, you shouldn't be an employee.
Right.
Another attitudinal.
I mean, in the private industry world, that's called embezzlement, right? If your employer says to you, "Here's a corporate credit card that you can use for business purposes," and you go out there and you buy yourself a pair of shoes with it, that's theft. There's nothing more, nothing less than that. And if it reaches a certain threshold, then it becomes embezzlement. And so, it's theft by taking, right? What's not lawfully yours. We're going to take a break, Jerry. When we come back, I'd like to know a little bit more about the hot button topics or current issues that you as an organization are facing, or what you view to be the most pressing issues that are currently out there. Can you stick with us through this break?
Sure.
Okay. Folks, we're talking with Jerry King, who is the president of Voice of the Ozarks. It is a property rights and kind of group where they are working to protect the rights of the people to use and access public waterways and lands. And we'll return in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now.
Fox News Alert. I'm Chris Foster. 3 sets of ballots burned so far at the Sistine Chapel, none with enough of the same name on them to declare a new pope. The cardinals who are voting are at lunch now, cut off from the outside world, but not each other.
They're free to talk at meals. They're free to visit one another in their rooms or meet in small groups. There are several lounge areas. There are absolutely no rules that prevent them from visiting and talking. There's a very beautiful chapel, so that many of them pray in that chapel morning or evening, and they're free to move around as they wish.
Vatican spokesman Father Thomas Rosica. Kevin Kearns is a Catholic in Los Angeles praying for those cardinals.
I did pray that the church would get a new pope, a good man, somebody who is open to the Holy Spirit.
The cardinals will vote again after lunch, up to twice more today, and so on until someone gets 2/3. This is a Fox News Alert.
Get a hold of Brian down at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance. You can call him at 870-492-4030, or you can find him on the web at ozarkmtnselfreliance.com. Located a half-mile east of Walmart and Route 62 in Mountain Home. My friends over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery at 255-2253, number 2 Evans Arcade off the square in West Plains. Best damn bakery in 100 miles. You can reach Mary at 255-2253. My friend Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 293-0116. Whether remodeling or doing new or custom construction or light commercial, Bill's the guy for you. 293-0116. West Plains Pawn and Gun, located on Route 160, just about a mile east of Walmart on the right-hand side. westplainspawn.com. You can also reach them via telephone at 417-256-3000. Friends over at the battery station at 303 Washington Avenue, right off the square in West Plains. You can find them on the web at batterystation.com, and you can call them at 417-257-7799. Also, don't forget to stop by Pizza Hut for an outstanding lunch special between 11 and 2. Salad and pasta all together. You can also visit them on Tuesday evenings for family night. Kids eat free under 12. And Jason over at Wits End Classic Barbershop, the sponsor of our telephone line. Make sure that you see Wits End Classic Barbershop for your next shave and a haircut. Outstanding, fine young man, and a great patriot as well. He's on the square in West Plains.
The deals at U.S. Cellular's unbelievable sales event are so incredible, even guys who believe in aliens can't believe them.
Open your eyes, sheeple. They are among us.
But smartphones under $100 and up to $400 in savings?
Conspiracy theory.
U.S. Cellular's unbelievable sales event, now through April 1st. U.S. Cellular. Hello, better. Phone offer valid on select smartphones. Other charges and restrictions apply. See store for details.
Weather is a service of News Talk 1071 The Point. Contact Josh or Cody at 255-2548 for more information on making weather sponsorships part of your marketing plans.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, we'll have a clear sky, mostly sunny through the day, high 48, partly cloudy tonight, low 30. Mostly sunny for tomorrow, high 62, partly cloudy tomorrow night, low 42. Friday, mostly sunny, high 72, could be a thunderstorm on Saturday. I'm meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
I know what you're thinking, Bunk. You're thinking, did he fire 6 shots or only 5?
Dirty Harry gets all his ammo from the battery station. John Rambo, you guessed it. He gets his ammo from the battery station, too. So if you need ammo, go to the place where the guys who know about ammunition go, the battery station. They have one of the largest supplies of ammunition in the area. So make sure you're stocked up and don't get low on shells. Go to the battery station at 303 Washington Avenue in West Plains.
All right, we return. We're speaking this morning with Jerry King. He is the president of Voice of the Ozarks. It's an organization that is working to protect the rights of the people to use and access public lands and waterways within the Ozarks Riverways community. And I want to give you his website so that you folks can get out there and learn more about the organization, what they do, and participate. They also have mailable membership forms that you can print out there and join the organization as well. The website is votozarks.org. That's votozarks.org. And it's basically the acronym of Voice of the Ozarks. So it's VOTOZARKS.org. TOZARKS.org. Now, you can also call them at 573-226-5662, and that will they'll be able to answer any questions that you might have in reference to a membership or what their role is and how you can help and how you can participate. Folks, this is the kind of thing that when we talk about educate, inform, motivate, and activate, this is the active part, right? This is where Jerry, as an example, has taken the bull by the horns, and literally and perhaps figuratively, and actually does something about his concerns and his outrage. Now, you've all heard me say, find an area or subject that really captures your interest and that you get excited about. Become a subject matter expert on it, and then utilize that knowledge and that information that you've gathered and learned to help and share and work towards educating and informing others, and then motivating and activating others to take action against whatever that area is that you've become a subject matter expert. It does require due diligence. It requires learning. It requires reading. It requires digging around. It requires looking at the opposite point of view as well to see what's their motivation and what's their drive. And Jerry is the kind of guy that has gone out there and done his homework. He knows his topic. He knows his subject matter. And if you scrape the surface, there's more underneath there. He's not just an empty shell parroting someone else's opinion. And so this is the kind of thing that this show is all about. Educate, inform, motivate, and activate. Jerry, I would like to get an idea, if I can, from you as to what you feel are like the top couple of issues that right now are realistically pending in front of you. And by the way, if it's okay with you, I'll give out our phone number and folks can call in.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Let me touch on something that you just said. We believe that we as citizens have certain inalienable rights, and that they're not from government.
Sure.
Government has the founding fathers said that government should have a limited role. And what's happening to our government, because it's in every facet of our life today. The Bill of Rights was drafted, and people should know that that's the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, and it was drafted because of a fear of government, because of a fear from being ruled from afar.
Right.
And we're here in the Missouri Ozarks, and we're being ruled from Washington, D.C.,
right.
And we don't like it. We don't like it at all. If you don't protect these rights as individuals, you're going to lose these rights. You're not going to lose them all at once. You're going to lose them little by little, because if they do it to you all at once, you'll get mad. But if they do it to you little by little, you won't even realize it.
Sure.
It's like the price of stamps. I often quote that. The price of stamps, if they raised it from a nickel to 45 cents, people would be up in arms, but they raised it a penny a time.
Right.
And now it is 45 cents. And that's how they do everything.
It's the principle of incrementalism and mission creep, right? And mission creep best describes where an agency, as an example, is tasked with a specific mission. And before you know it, in order to continue the growth of that organization, they begin to bring in other concepts and other issues that they want to address and deal with and be in charge of. And before you know it, they're you've got this organization that started out with a very clear and specific mission, but now has, like the Department of Education, has this bloated $100 billion budget and is basically destroying our educational system. And we see that over and over and over again. So we don't have to wonder whether it's one or two bad people who are running an agency, because we see that in virtually every agency. So we have to recognize that the empirical proof here is that agencies need to either grow or die. And invariably, with all of the money they have and the pull they have, they actually end up always growing. And, one of the things I find the most difficult to accept is the fact that these agencies, including the National Park Service, spend taxpayer money to lobby Congress like as if they're an independent industry. I get it when GE lobbies Congress. I get it when the telecommunications industry lobbies Congress. They have a focused goal that they're trying to do to help sell their product and raise profits for their shareholders. But when you've got a government agency that uses taxpayer money to lobby government on not on your behalf, but on the behalf of the agency so that they can grow even more. I got a real problem with that. I mean, they actually pay lobbyists to go to Washington and lobby Congress for bigger budgets and more power. And that, to me, is just unbelievable. It's like the whole idea of having, government unions. So, I mean, why do you need a union to protect you from the same actual organization that passes the laws, We've got a caller on the line. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask if we could clarify the meaning of public, because it sounds like Jerry is representing private landowners, whereas the National Park Service is representing the public interest, a wider public interest. He talked about bringing tourists in. Well, the National Park Service brings tourists in, and I just wonder. He talked about public use and access of these rivers, but it seems like he's really representing the interests of those who own property along the river.
Well, actually, Jerry, I'm going to give you a moment to answer that. But first of all, I'm going to try to answer it for you. The first thing that jumps into my head is that's actually not true. If you look at their slogan, it's working to protect the rights of the people to use and access public lands and waterways, number one. Number two, those people who owned that property have already been removed from the property, either via sale or eminent domain. Jerry, go ahead and you throw in your piece, but that's my take on it.
Well, sure. We represent everybody, as I mentioned before. Hunting, fishing, boating, canoeing, horseback riding, four-wheeling, hiking, the general public. Now, I'm not advocating anything as far as the private landowner's use. This land is public land at this point. As a matter of fact, a couple or three superintendents ago, I asked him a point-blank question. I said, you do agree that this land belongs to the people? And he said, well, I only agree that this is public land. And I think that's the problem.
Well, then let me make a clarification here, because it may be, caller, that I gave you that impression by saying he was a part of the property rights coalition organizations, and that is not exactly accurate. And so let me make an on-air correction here. There are property rights coalitions that do deal specifically with the areas of farmers' rights and agricultural rights and land use and land ownership rights, and that is the group, the property rights coalition group. And Jerry, if I conflated you with them and in some way gave the wrong impression, I apologize. That's my fault for doing that.
No,
same to you, caller. That same comment goes out to you.
Okay, thank you. I just, I believe in private property rights, but I also believe in national parks and national forests, and I floated the rivers, and sometimes there are points when you're floating along, and it seems like you're floating through somebody's backyard. It's more fun to float through areas that feel like you're in a natural setting, and to feel like this setting will be there for my children to float through. So I value public access through the National Park Service, and I'm sorry if some people have lost their lands along the river, but there is a larger public good sometimes that maybe we need to consider. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the comment. Jerry, would you like to rebut that or comment on that? There's
a 2-mile stretch along the current river, for example, that the Park Service is in control of. There are private property points along that river that the Park Service does not control. So when he says that he floated through somebody's backyard, that could possibly be true. I floated that river about 17 or 18 miles of it a couple of times. I'm getting a little old for that anymore, but and you do pass through private property as well as public property.
Right.
My biggest concern is that
I think his concern is, he wants to be able to float down the river and it be a scenic journey, and I get that. But on the other hand, I think to respond to that, your point earlier, where they close access to certain areas and all human access and that kind of thing, is also a prohibiting factor in the sense that, if certain areas are completely closed to human access, then that's not necessarily a good thing either, because then it's the habitat is closed to all of us. So what's the point of it being there if we can't gain access to it? That doesn't solve the public's need to or ability to utilize land they own either. So we've got a break coming up. We're going to take this right now. And, Jerry, if you don't mind sticking with us, I'll give you a chance when we get back to put out your public information again so that folks can contact you to participate in your organization. And then I'll wrap the show. Folks, we'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now. We're speaking this morning with Jerry King, the president of Voice of the Ozarks.
The area's best selection of firearms, ammunition, and accessories can only be found at West Plains Pawn and Jewelry, your Class 3 dealer for automatic weapons and suppressors, including Gemtech and Huntertown, with a great selection of holsters, slings, magazines, and gun storage options. West Plains Pawn and Jewelry will also do special orders. With new arrivals every week, the area's best selection of firearms, ammunition, and accessories can only be found at West Plains Pawn and Jewelry, 1713 West U.S. Highway 160, or shop online at westplainspawn.com.
Hi, it's Hugh Hewitt on the next Hugh Hewitt Show. I am back, and I am happy to bring you up to speed as we loom closer and closer to the sequestration, as the Cardinals begin to gather in Rome, as all sorts of news from around the world collects. I will be your Sherpa through that complexity, all on the next Hugh Hewitt Show.
Sundays from 6 till 7, following Money Talk with Bob Brinker, it's the Weekend Journal with Hugh Hewitt on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
Are you looking to save money? Did you know that in the last 20 years, interest rates have never been this low? That's why you should make the smart call today to West Plains Savings and Loan to start your home mortgage. Just imagine how much money you'll save. Key word is save, as in savings and loan. Your loan starts here and stays here. Never would it be sold to a secondary lender. Call today, 256-3042. That's 256-3042. West Plains Savings and Loan. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
There is this product on Amazon that is simply going crazy. The banana slicer, almost 2,500 consumer reviews. I've been trying to come up with an ideal way to slice a banana. Use a knife, they say. Well, my parole officer won't let me around knives. Or how about this one? What can I say about the banana slicer that hasn't already been said about the wheel or penicillin? Obviously, just a pure hoax.
Saturdays noon to 3 and weekdays at 7:35 for your Digital Minute. It's Kim Commando on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
All right, we return. Jerry, I'd like to give our listeners another opportunity to capture your web and contact information. You have a website out there that kind of provides an overview of what you folks do, and there's a membership form for people to sign up there. It's got a list of your board, the members of it, and a little bit about the founding of it, public information, and that kind of thing. So, folks, that website is VOTOZARKS.org. That's VOTOzarks.org. And, Jerry, there's a phone number for you. The one I have is 573-226-5662. Is that accurate?
That is.
Okay.
That is.
So, I understand that you're working towards, kind of making sure that our public lands and waterways are open for access and recreation. What would you say is right now the pending piece pending thing that you're working on the hardest?
Well,
is that 20-year plan that you mentioned?
Let me talk about the various activities, recreational activities on the water, on and around the current and Jacks Fork River.
Okay.
We don't support any one of those activities over the other. We support all of those activities.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right to do those things as you desire. We're not pushing any one activity more than another. We have problems with access. We have horse people who say that they can't camp at given locations when there are other people camping at those locations doing other types of activities. We have people who complain that county roads are being closed, that river crossings are being closed, that huge rocks are being put up to obstruct the county roads, and we feel that as we mentioned earlier, that incrementally the Park Service is going to divide and conquer. They're going to say, well, this activity is all right, but that activity is not. Mm-hmm. And we'll allow this activity. But you need to beware. When they get down to just a couple of activities, maybe they'll just extinguish all activity.
Right.
There was once a plan in the making to make this a wilderness area on the Park Service's behalf, and we don't know if that's gone away or not. But
are there any places that we can point to that or that you're aware of that on a national basis where the National Park Service or another agency, maybe the Bureau of Land Management or something, has done something like that where they've said this area is closed to all human habitation or human access, I should say, not habitation but access?
Well, I think actually right now.
I guess I'm wondering is there an example that can be pointed to that says this is an area, this is an example of where this particular park has been closed to all human access, period?
The Buffalo River, there's some problems down there. Out west, there's a couple of places. I can't call them just offhand.
Right. I mean, I know, like out in Colorado and places, the Bureau of Land Management owns so much of the Rockies in Colorado, as an example, that I mean, you do have to get permission to go on a lot of that property. You can't hunt on it without special permission and that type of thing. And I mean, I get that that's a limitation on the use of those lands. I guess the questions that jump to mind are, is it reasonable management or is it government abuse? My concern with most of this, by the way, is that a lot of this is driven by the Agenda 21 thing that's coming out of the federal government and out of the United Nations. And anytime I see where a government agency wants to restrict usage, if you follow the train back, if you follow the trail, almost always it leads back to this Agenda 21 principle, which is being instituted not by congressional, law or regulation, because Congress won't pass those kinds of laws, but by administrative agencies that are doing an end run around the legislative process in an effort to accomplish a goal which, quite frankly, is not a goal that is beneficial to the overall United States of America. It's not really beneficial to us as a people. Is that a fair statement, or in your opinion?
Well, we believe that the bureaucracies feel that by over-regulating you, it creates less work for them. And we know that they don't want to do a whole lot of work. They want to draw their salary and continue to grow their bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. So by curtailing activities, it creates less work for them.
I see.
And therefore, we suffer in the process. Mm-hmm. We, the general public,
right,
who I'm speaking of.
Sure. Okay. Well, listen, Jerry, I want to thank you. Folks, if you want to get to Jerry's website, you can go to VOTOzarks.org. That's V like Victor, O like Oscar, T like Tango, Ozarks.org. And Jerry can also be reached if you have a question that you'd like to address a specific issue with him. You can call him directly at 573-226-5662. So, Jerry, thanks very much for joining with us. I appreciate you kind of...
Can I say one more thing?
Of course, sure.
We're having our annual rally. We have an annual rally every year.
Okay.
Membership drive and rally. We're having it in Winona at the Winona Senior Center on April the 6th at 2 p.m. We have a half a dozen state legislators who will be there, where you the people, can meet these people face-to-face and ask questions of them about what they're doing in their government endeavors.
Sure.
And also ask questions about what's going on with the Park Service, the Department of Conservation, and what legislation is in the making at this time, and what government plans are about to be implemented at this time.
Great.
So I encourage everyone to come out. It's free entertainment, free food, doesn't cost you anything to come.
Sure. And you're going to hold that at the Winona Senior Citizen Center Saturday, April 6th. 2013, from 2 o'clock until whenever, right?
Whenever.
Got a quick caller. Go ahead real quick. We've got a call here, Jerry, and I just wanted you to hear this. Go ahead, caller, quickly.
This goes back to your opening talking point about the debt and the deficit.
Okay, that's a different topic, so just hang on a second.
Okay.
Jerry, I want to thank you very much for joining with us. I appreciate your joining with us this morning and sharing your mission and the Voice of the Ozarks program with our listenership, and I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. Okay, caller, go ahead. Oh, I lost him. I apologize. I hit the wrong button. Okay, folks, a couple of quick bullet points here. The reloading class for the 30th, if you are intending to attend that, I absolutely must hear from you immediately, and I need to get a confirmation from you that you're going to attend. What I'll do is I'll email you back with the details and the specifics on that so that you can make sure that you get in and make a deposit to cover the cost of that class. The cost is going to be $100. You don't have to pay the whole thing up front, but you can make a deposit on it. And the cost of that will be $100. It's going to be Saturday, the 30th. It's an all-day event. But it will teach you everything that you need to know about reloading metallic cartridges, and that will be certainly a skill worth having, especially in light of the fact that ammo is in such shortage right now. Also, our TAC 1 pistol course, which is scheduled for the 23rd. If you are intending to take that, I absolutely must hear from you immediately, if not sooner. Today is the 13th. We have less than 10 days left before that class begins. That's the 23rd and the 24th. Cost on that is $175, and you will need 800 rounds of ammunition, a semi-automatic pistol, and some other things. Send me an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. That's mike@americasvoicenow.org. I encourage you to take both of those classes with a partner or a significant other or a child and what have you, so that what you folks are learning, you're actually able to double check with each other and work back and forth with the knowledge that you've gained and gathered. Make sure that you send me an email as soon as possible to mike@americasvoicenow.org for both of those classes. Reloading on the 30th, TAC 1 on the 23rd. And by the way, we're going to have that TAC 1, we're going to split that into a ladies-only class. So if that's something that you would be interested in, please make sure that you mention TAC 1 in the subject line. Go ahead, caller. You came back on, and I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I just want to say, if we're interested in restoring the American dollar to anything like it, what it should be, we have to end the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a private corporation. We owe debt. You didn't mention the interest on our debt. We pay interest every month. I mean, and before many more years, we're going to the interest to the Federal Reserve and to other banks around the world is going to eat you talk about eating our substance. They are eating our substance.
Right now, we spend about $400 billion a year on debt.
And so even now,
I didn't forget to mention that. I talk about the Federal Reserve all the time.
Well, I mean, this morning I didn't hear that in the talking points, but we've got to end the Federal Reserve if we expect to ever restore our monetary soundness. And so I just want to throw that in.
Thank you very much. Okay, folks, we're going to wrap our show. I just want to throw out the idea to you about what is our role and what's our part here to play. Remember that you benefit from the hundreds of years of history, hard work, creativity, ingenuity, and the magic of what occurred 235 some odd years ago in the United States of America. We are you've won the lottery. You've won the lottery by being born here. However, if you squander that heritage, if you squander that money, you will find yourself in bankruptcy court. And we, as a nation, have been squandering the benefits that we've gained from that. And so I want to remind you of a statement from Patrick Henry. Is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Folks, it is imperative that we each pay back our part, do our part to be good husbands of the funds and the what we've received as a result of our republic. We'll see you tomorrow.
Arkansas, 107.1 KBMV, Birch Tree, West Plains, The Point. Fox
Fox News Radio, I'm Lisa Brady. A lunch break at the Vatican for the Cardinals picking a new pope. Not enough of them on the same page yet, after at least 2 votes since yesterday.